Hey heroes, before we get into this episode with Matthew from the band Tayne, I actually want to just take a quick minute to talk about some real heroes in the world. I was born in Los Angeles, lived there until I was 13, and I'm now back there for college, and so the city has a huge place in my heart, and I love it so much. But unfortunately, it's just been getting torn through with wildfires recently, and neighborhoods that I have family, friends, schools in are really being affected. At the time of recording this, I'm back home in New York and safe right now, but I am planning on going back to Los Angeles, and once I'm there, I will be helping out on the ground. I will be supporting the people I know who had to evacuate. But before I go back, I still wanted to have an impact and hopefully play a part in getting this situation under control. If you know my clothing line, Quest Clothing, I have announced on my Instagram by this point and in the video you're watching right now that for the next 1 week after this video goes up, so I believe that's from the 15th, which is when I uploaded this, and the 22nd, 100% of the profit that I make from my clothing line is going to the Los Angeles Fire Department Foundation. They have a fund set up to help with emergency shelters, hydration backpacks, different tools that they need. If you feel like donating directly to this fund and don't need or want anything from my web store, I will also leave a link to this fund so that you can donate directly to the foundation. So I will leave all of that information in the description below. But in the meantime, enjoy this interview I did with Matthew from Tayne. He is the bassist and singer for the industrial noise pop band who are pushing their genre to extreme limits. You may know them from their song Silence, and their new album Love comes out on January 31st. Please welcome Matt Sutton of Tayne to the podcast. How are you doing today?
Sweet, man. Thanks for that awesome intro. Yeah, good. I'm stoked to be on the show. Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's awesome to be here. Awesome to be releasing music.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on. As someone who produces some music myself, I think like releasing or like the build up to release is like one of the most exciting parts of being someone who puts music out there, whether it's a
Yeah.
band, solo artist, whatever. Probably
Yeah.
up there with live shows also. Live shows seem so awesome to do. Just
Yeah.
being on stage and everything.
It's that weird thing, isn't it? Whereas like you spend so much time nurturing this like idea and making this music, and then it's your thing, but then like you're like the second you put it out there, it's no longer yours,
Yeah,
and it's that like you're really like vulnerable moment, you're just like still super protective over it, but it's like in 2 weeks time, it's like it doesn't
it's
belong to
everywhere. Yeah.
me. Yeah.
Yeah. And the other weird thing, like so my favorite band is 21 Pilots, if you know them, and their
Yeah,
singer
yeah.
at one point was talking about like it's so weird to like, especially for albums, work on something for like 2 years, however long, like years long, and then like you look back and you're reflecting on the past 2.5, 3 years of your life, and it's summed up in this like 40-minute piece of music that you
Yeah.
have. And it's like so weird to try to fit that much time into one album and whatnot, but they do it
It's
well.
wild.
And I'm sure you guys crush it on this upcoming album, Love. Excited to hear it once it comes out. But going way back to the start for you, what first got you into music, or was there any moment that you were something clicked and you're like, oh, this is what I want to do?
Like playing music or just like music
Yeah,
in
yeah,
general?
playing music,
Uh,
or I mean both, but especially for playing music.
Yeah, I think like growing up, like, I kind of I was the brother of four, the youngest of four, and so very influenced by my brothers and their music tastes and stuff. And I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but no, it's a good thing. Like I think like one of my older brothers like was into like new metal in 2001, and all of that good stuff. So I had like a crash course into all of that, which was pretty much the foundation of like my music stuff. Um, yeah, and then I guess really like playing music, and when that probably it all probably started in around the same time. I think when you just like when like for me then, like, it was always just so exciting, like hearing. I remember like when Slipknot, is a good point of reference because that was like 2001, Slipknot, Iowa. When the first time I ever heard that thing, I was like, what is that? It was
Yeah.
like the craziest, like being an 11-year-old kid, like hearing that and just trying to like decipher what that was. I thought that was the craziest, coolest thing ever. And so like I think I just got like super enthralled in music in general. And then my brother like was kind of like, I guess he played drums, and he was like, he kind of, I think he brought home like a beat up acoustic guitar one day. It literally had holes in it. And it was just like kind of half smashed to bits, and it was just left in our corner of our bedroom. And then one day I just kind of like picked it up and was like, oh, trying to figure it out. And then it kind of just came like pretty intuitively to me, like playing guitar. And so that was really like where it all started, I guess, being 11. So it was like both like, the right time of like crazy music coming out, and just like, so happened to be like a bunged up instrument sitting in the corner of my room.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. And how old were you at that point? And was it something that like clicked and you were like, okay, this is it, music's a thing, or was there anything else you were like thinking of pursuing as a career?
Well, I think like, so yeah, like as a kid growing up and like through my teenage years and even adolescence and whatever, like art has been like the driving force of my entire life. Creativity has always been the thing that I have felt that I was good at, or like at least held my attention. Um, and I was obsessive about it. And so yeah, like making art was like a big thing that I was into growing up until I found a guitar, and then I realized that I could channel all this creativity into that too. But like I guess you know, as a hobbyist, musician was always like a thing. I really feel like until late 20s was I probably not like taking music like serious, or like calling myself a professional in any way. But certainly, making art and being an artist, was something that I still do. I'm a tattoo artist. I draw on people for a living, and it's
Awesome.
like I love it because it's like it's real work. It like for me, it's a real working man's job, and kind of coming from like a working class job, I should say. Coming from like a council estate with like no money to like having an output that's art and having these direct contacts with people, it's like such an awesome thing.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, like I've never really thought about it, but tattoo artist is like almost a perfect blend of like it is artistic and you're like doing art, but it's established enough to be like like you said, like a working class job, or like a real
Yeah,
job that
yeah,
you can go to a business and you clock in and you're there for
yeah,
like a
yeah.
shift and doing work.
Absolutely, yeah. It's great, but like yeah, I like so kind of with like having tattooing it, like it's a great kind of thing because it frees up, like I'm my own boss at the end of the day, and so that's kind of like really nice to kind of like you decide when and where, and all the ins and outs of that. But I think yeah, like it definitely freed up more time to do music, and like music was always like a passion, especially being in Ireland, growing up in Ireland, the scene, I guess, the scene is there, definitely a scene, but unless you're playing like really commercial, like radio friendly stuff, like industrial noise pop in Ireland is not a thing
It's
that
not there. There's
that
not a
really
scene for
takes
it.
off. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. And I mean, you mentioned being a tattoo artist. I see the like roses on your hand. How
Yeah,
many
yeah.
tattoos do you have? Is it like covered or just these on the hand?
Yeah, no, it's that like it's kind of mostly everywhere. I just count
Awesome.
body parts now. Like I would say, I don't know, on a percentage wise, I'd say maybe like 60 to 70% of my body is tattooed.
Awesome.
Maybe. Yeah,
And
are the most freed space, I'd say, at the moment.
Do you have one that's like your favorite or that like means the most to you?
I like I've never had it always changes. Like I try to get tattooed off
Yeah,
the people who inspire me, but like and I was never really one for like for me personally because it was like I was drawn into it for the visual side of it, not so much
got
like
it.
it's cool to like you can have art that's really meaningful in terms of like its ideas, and then you can just have the aesthetic side to it. And so for
Yeah,
me, I was
definitely.
pulled in on the
On
aesthetic
the
side.
aesthetics.
But saying that, I did get tattooed by my mom. I made my mom tattoo me, and that's probably the most sentimental tattoo that I have. Otherwise, everything is junk, you know?
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And so with music being a part of bands, eventually Tayne forms where you make Tayne. Where does that name just first and foremost come from, Tayne? Like what sparked that?
Yeah, Tayne, the name, was really like it's a classic band. It's a joke name, and it was from there used to be that show on Adult Swim called Tim and Eric, Awesome Job or Awesome Show, Great Job, and they had if you don't know the show, they had like it was always like really small, really cheaply done skits, mostly standing in front of green screen and then editing and stuff. And they'd always get loads of different celebrity comedians in on the show to do loads of stupid little skits. And they got Paul Rudd in to do this one
Awesome.
where he's sitting in front of a computer having like drinking coffee and like working in the office kind of
Yeah.
a and like a mini version of him pops up on the screen and he's like he starts dancing and doing all this shit and he just goes, "Hey Paul, I'm Tane, your latest dancer. I can't wait to entertain you." And then Paul just goes, "Now Tane I can get into." And I was like, that's a steal right there.
That's the band name.
Straight
Yeah.
into the band name. Yeah, yeah. So that's where the name came from. It was my nod like niche dark comedy. Every now and again, you'll get someone that knows exactly what it is, and they'll like they give you the nod. They're like, "Oh, like Tane, I can get into Tane,"
Yeah.
and I'm like, "Yeah." And so sometimes it's funny when you get like quotes from like we got played on Daniel P. Carter at the Radio One rock show on BBC, and he was like, he literally just goes, "Now Tane, I can get into," and I was like, oh, "Okay, cool, yeah."
You get it. Yeah.
He knows exactly what's going on.
Hey, it's Heroek, and this episode is sponsored by me. Well, kind of. If you don't know, I recently started a clothing line called Quest Clothing, which you can shop right now. I'll leave some pictures here on the screen, but we got the core collection, which is just this sleek black and white design on a bunch of products. And then we also have some more like merch style stuff with cover arts for my songs and things like that. I've been wanting to do this for a long time, and I'm really excited that I now have it. And so expect a lot more collections, a lot more designs coming out soon. I'll leave a link to it down below, and if you want to stay up to date with any new releases or anything like that, follow at Shop Quest Clothing on Instagram. So go get cool designs like this, or even this, and you'll be helping me support all of this, the podcast, the music, everything. Plus, it just looks cool. We even got this nice big letter design on the back. Look at that. Look how cool that looks. So head to the link in the description to get yourself some Quest clothing, and make sure to follow at Shop Quest Clothing on Instagram for updates with new collections and stuff like that. And now, back to the episode.
For actually like getting the band together and meeting the other members, how did all that form?
Yeah, so Tom who plays guitar, me and him. So I guess when I moved to London, I was eager to start a band, and me and Tom met on like I guess like the equivalent to like Craigslist or something like that. Just like on forums, on some
Yeah.
chats, and we kind of started doing this like really really bad kind of I don't know. I guess it was like almost like an indie rock band, but more so on the rock. And Tom was playing guitar and I was playing guitar, and there was a bunch of other people involved, and it just kind of I think it just ran its course. I think we both got the notion that it wasn't really going to go anywhere. And with I guess I had like at that time started really like I guess the incubator stage of like what Tane was, and so I had kind of this these demos on a computer. I guess yeah, like for me uh like being a guitarist always in a band, I think Tane really started as a kind of process of me trying to remove the guitar as like the fundamental like building blocks of a band, and so predominantly like writing stuff with synthesizers and like sampling stuff and using a computer was where it started. And so then yeah, when we had kind of called it a day on that thing, I had these demos that I showed Tom, and yeah, he was all up for it. And so that's kind of where we started, and we just kind of I think that was like 2018. And we just jumped straight into it. And we started off like doing like classic kind of almost like a Godflesh type thing, a drum machine in the middle of the stage and a guitar and a bassist.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love that like blend of sounds for that experimentation and everything. And
Yeah.
from there, like these demos showing the other band members, when does it go to like playing shows and like wanting to get out there?
I think we kind of we hit the ground running like pretty immediately in 2018. And we kind of yeah, we had worked on these songs, this set, I guess, of songs. And I guess I had made them like bedroom demo kind of things. And we just started going out playing these it like almost instantly. I think we were very eager to be a band before we were actually a band, you know.
Yeah.
And so we kind of done that. And then as we started playing the songs live, we were like we changed them so much to a point where they were no longer this bedroom thing that I had kind of created. And it was just like it like what that like bedroom project thing was just wasn't like a true representation of what we wanted it to be. So I guess it kind of like from playing those shows, we really kind of got into understanding our sound, and like we kind of wanted it to be a bit more like to sound a bit more like a live band in a way. And so that's kind of uh like at that stage we were probably into 2019, and that's kind of when we started really kind of trying to get a drummer involved with the band and kind of elevate it to, I guess the rock show essentially.
Yeah.
And that's the way we kind of viewed it anyway. It was like, we if we're going to do the rock show, fucking do the rock show, because I feel like that these are our strong points coming out of like, being in, metal bands and shit like that as a kid.
Yeah. Yeah. And probably better to like just go for it rather than like trying to weigh or gauge when the right moment to like start doing live shows is. It's probably better to just get out there and
Yeah.
do it. And so maybe it's that sentiment of just get out there and do it. But for like any other like metal bands coming up, just forming, like what tips or advice would you give to them to like start growing or keep going with their careers?
I feel like now I would say um like I think a lot of people at the time were impressed by how I guess like ignorant we were. Um, but like, in hindsight, I feel would I have done that again? I don't know. Like I feel like we've kind of got to this point where we're saying like the go-to thing is like serve the song, serve the music, rather than ourselves or our own egos. And I think that is probably the advice I would give someone. Yeah, so maybe it does take some time, but there's only so much you can resolve by, sitting down writing stuff on a computer or like in your rehearsal room. You're always biased, so like at some point you do have to take that jump and kind of but see how people respond to it in a way, and then if it works or if it doesn't.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And from all this live experience you have, is there a show that's been your favorite or that just really sticks in your mind?
Um, we let me think. I'd probably say we played a show with the band Health.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I've heard of them.
we played in London with them like quite a few like that was probably that was pretty early as well. That was probably like 2019, and that was kind of
Awesome.
like that was like a big stage for us to go up onto.
Yeah,
And again, it was really like cool to see how they did it and to just kind of see how people engaged with the music. And so yeah, probably that show with
yeah.
those guys at the
Did
moment.
did did you feel like ready for it at that point, or basically a year into the band? Was it like kind of a big jump for you guys?
I again, my ignorance probably felt that we were ready for it,
Yeah,
but I don't know if we were. I mean, there was. I'm glad we did it. But and those guys were super cool and really really awesome at having us on that show, and they had us on a few of their shows, and it was super awesome. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I think we at that kind of moment was like the real moment in time where it was starting to kind of like fall into place in terms of like really honing in on what we wanted to do. And so it kind of felt exciting to be like on that cusp of like kind of figuring it out and developing and kind of like moving into the next stage.
yeah. Taking it as like a learning moment or a big career moment, development moment, however you want to say it. But yeah, I'm sure it
Yeah.
must have been awesome.
Are you a music artist trying to find a way to get your music on as many streaming platforms as possible? Then check out DistroKid. DistroKid is a super user-friendly and super easy-to-use service that will make your music available in stores like Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes, Amazon Music, YouTube, Snapchat, everything. Everything you could imagine, it's available. People will even be able to add your songs into their Instagram stories. DistroKid helps you with the distribution, monetization, and promotion of all of your music. Use the link in the description of this video for 7% off any DistroKid package you want. Pick from musician packages designed to help artists get their own music out there, or even get a label package where you can manage up to 100 artists from one profile. So that's more for like managers, labels, and you can also get the musician package that I mentioned earlier, which is more for artists, producers, things like that. It's super easy, and you can get 7% off any package right now with the link in the description of this video. So once again, if you're looking for a way to get your music on as many streaming platforms as possible, I'm talking any platform you can think of, get DistroKid and get 7% off right now with the link in the description. Back to the program.
You mentioned also being a tattoo artist and kind of keeping that as more of a like steady job throughout all this music stuff. Has there been a moment that kind of made you question music at all or like second guess it and wonder if you should just stick to tattoo artistry or like how, and if there was, how did you get through it?
I think like does does a thing that you've just like tapped into there that made me realize that like I for me like having like going to art college, making art, being a tattooer, making tattoos, and being a musician and making music, the one consistent thing I've noticed in all of those scenes is that there's too many like excuse it like rich white people, that are
Yeah.
like very like comfortable and well off, and like, I'm not knocking it to an extent. If someone like is has the freedom to not worry about all of these things, that's awesome. But like, I remember in art college, and kind of in music, you see it as well. It's just like so many people don't have to worry about like day to day kind of stuff, because it's it's uh it's not an issue for them. And I kind of just feel like I've always just felt like, whoa, I'm not the same as you guys. Like, I have to work for a living. I
Yeah.
have to, and so I think that's always been like, I've always felt like a little bit of an underdog or an outsider in that regard. And but like, that is not like, woe is to me. Like, I love the fact that like, I'm just like, I feel like, you know, you know, for the people who can't quite fucking make the time to do it, or money or whatever. Like, I feel that I'm here. I got your back, man. I'm like, I know how it feels. It's fucking, it's a labor of love, but like the love of creating art or whatever output that is like, that should always be the goal.
Yeah. And it's tough in that situation, but it also, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but in some cases, I think it can kind of help drive you, like that you don't have a plan B or a fallback option. Like this
Yeah.
is what you want to do, and it drives you to be like, okay, I gotta make this work. Like
Yeah,
and
yeah. And even that, like, you work within your means, right? So like, like, yeah, you can fucking afford to go to the studio. So what are you going to do? And like, half of the time, most of the time, I think you like, if you're working within like your means, it forces you to be more creative and do stuff
definitely,
a bit more unconventionally. And I think that probably like leads to more interesting work,
yeah. And that's one of the great things with like m music technology, but like just technology in general today is that like you don't need to go to a studio if you have like a laptop with GarageBand or Logic or whatnot, and like maybe an interface. Like you can do it from your
Yeah,
bedroom, from your house, whatnot. Like there's ways to definitely like rather than keep going to the studio and like pay hourly rates and whatnot, buy
yeah,
like a piece of equipment and be like, okay, I have this forever now or until it breaks, basically, and can just use it on the go in your house wherever. And I think that's awesome.
yeah, yeah, dude. I think I was like 23 when I first like owned a computer, and somehow I got like an illegal crack of like Ableton and Fruit Loops, and like that set
Yeah.
me off, man. I was just like, sweet, I like fucking, what's going on if I press this? And that computer I had for a long, long time. But I even think of like what, like the very first like effects pedal or whatever guitar pedal that I ever owned was like this, like all in one, like Zoom multi effects thing. And I think man, I must have been like 16 when I got this thing, and it had a disc of like was it like Cubase, like a like software of
Yeah.
Cubase. I remember just like having this like CD-ROM, I guess, and just being like, well, that's going in the bin because I don't have a computer. And just like, yeah, well, whatever. And man, if I had a, I think of like, man, how much further along would I have been if I actually had a computer to fucking
Yeah.
that shit out on? It would have been cool. But I don't regret it, but I always just think of that, like that CD-ROM of Cubase is like the funny thing in my life where
Yeah, the big like what if moment.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And it's so awesome seeing like creative workarounds, let's say, to getting all the software and whatnot.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
I remember when I was younger seeing a kid like in school have his own computer, and he had Ableton up, but just like from clearly some like weird like website and just open on like a browser, like not the app Ableton, and
Oh, right, okay.
that's what clicked for me, that like you don't have to by the software itself. There are workarounds to it, and I was like, okay, like
Dark web
there's
exists.
a whole other world of this, and I haven't figured out yet.
Amazing. I love that.
Yeah, yeah. And so, I mean, with being a tattoo artist and being, like you said, so focused on like aesthetics and visual art, how involved are you for like cover arts or graphics for the band? Because I mean, a bunch of your art is super cool. It has all this almost like abstract look to it. And so, is that
Yeah. Yeah.
you collaborative? Like, what's the process behind the cover art for Tayne?
So the cover art, um, this guy, we just got to see these today. Yeah, so the graphic, the big love thing, I 100% designed that and kind of drew that. I think I done like most of the layout and the borders and like there's like all these kind of icons and stuff
Yeah,
all over it. Like I created all of these. The kind of like I guess like the more kind of like red kind of abstract kind of photos are stills from the music videos. I would say mostly I'm pretty heavily involved in the kind of equally the visual side as the writing side. But I think with the videos specifically, we I think when we kind of wrote it and we knew that we were going to make some videos, I kind of the last thing I wanted to do was to just stand in front of a camera and just headbang. Because I just feel like you back to that thing, you pour so much of yourself into creating this piece of art that like you want it to be a piece of art. And so like for me, the visual side of like making the videos, I was like, there's nothing more boring to me than just like us headbanging for like three music videos. And so we're like, well, what if we could kind of tell a story that was like, a piece of art in itself, kind of removed from uh detached from like the band, and
yeah,
so I think all of that kind of we kind of got in contact with a producer, Leif, that directed them and produced it, and then we got through him, Leif knew a photographer, Evan Hansen, who kind of was really kind of on it with the lights and I guess like the kind of art direction of the videos and stuff. And then the lights was another guy, Paul, that was involved with it too. And so I guess when we made all those videos, it kind of I guess I kind of brought it all back together and kind of cemented it together to kind of be like one thing. But I think the visual side of the band is definitely something that we uh, we try to kind of poke at a little bit. I feel like because we're that kind of like gothy kind of industrial thing, I don't necessarily want to come out on and just look like we're trying to look like Nine Inch Nails or whatever, all dressed in black and whatever.
yeah,
And so I think like we've been really kind of like pushing to, I guess, to go against that and what people would normally kind of assume the aesthetics is in terms of like the product and like the all the artwork and stuff like that. And so yeah, there's a lot of like kind of weird abstracty kind of uh videos and images and stuff that are just like I guess trying to be like colorful and not what you would usually expect with when you listen to the music.
yeah. But that's awesome. Like, as a listener, as a fan, like any music videos that tell a story or like you said are like something new or like detached from the music is awesome. I know like artists and bands who like I watch the music videos and it's almost like like mini movies, like yeah, like and
Yeah.
it's like it brings you into this whole world, which is always super awesome.
Hey, if you're like me and you're interested in the YouTube or creator space, you should check out The Published Press. The Published Press is a completely free newsletter founded by YouTubers Colin and Samir. They host their own podcast talking to some of YouTube's largest creators, They've edited some of the best content I've seen on YouTube, and now they're sharing their knowledge about the YouTube space with you for free. The Publish Press comes out 3 times a week, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, with everything going on with your favorite creators and platforms. And like I said, it's completely free. Just enter your email address to receive the Publish Press whenever it comes out, and that's it. So what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description below, sign up to the Publish Press, and get all the info you need on the industry.
Let's just get right into the new album, Love, because you were showing
Sure.
off the CD package
Sure.
there, which looks awesome. But for this whole process of like making the album, like coming up with these songs, what did that creative process look like, and how did the band kind of work together to make this album?
So I guess like, like first and foremost, like the band kind of starts and ends on a computer, and then like the music is created, like it begins and ends on a computer, and then like somewhere in the middle, the band kind of exists. And so, um, usually it's like a process of like writing it, kind of at home or on a computer, and then bringing it into the rehearsal space and kind of seeing how it feels and trying to like make it work, I guess in a live context, and then like honing in on that and bringing it back to, I guess, a computer and teasing it out a little bit more. And so like I feel like that is generally the process of music writing for Tayne. But in terms of uh like the end product, we did go to a studio. We recorded it all with a guy called Wayne Adams, who we've worked with on our last EP that we put out in 21. Um, and yeah, just like really amazing studio, really amazing producer. Wayne's great, and he like we gravitated towards him because I knew a lot, I knew he was recording loads of bands, but really I came across this band called Pep Brick, who is Igor Cavalera from Sepultura, Cavalera Conspiracy, all the other associate bands that he was in over the years. It was Igor Cavalera and this guy Wayne, um, making this like crazy, just really like intense, aggressive industrial noises and like blast beats. And I heard it and I was just like, this sounds fucking great. Who the fuck is recording this? And it was Wayne. And so I was just like, ah, dude, come on. We like, I've got this thing. Please fucking record it. And so he was all up for it. And so yeah, we worked with Wayne. It probably we I would say we probably spent like 10 months back and forth in the studio, not like one quick succession. It was like we'd book a week kind of a thing, or whatever we could afford at the time, and we'd block it off and we'd go in and we'd kind of get down like as much as we can, but it would usually end up being like maybe like 3 or 4 songs, and we'd kind of work on them and like get all like the live stuff in, and then add in all the electronic stuff and do all the vocals. Um, and then there would just be like all right, I'll see you in like a month or whatever, and we'll talk again. And it I would kind of go home and just like obsessively listen to that stuff. And sometimes we'd like rip apart the songs or like just completely scrap them. But like weirdly enough, I think that's part of the process for me, at least. Um,
Yeah.
and like there's one song off the record called Wasted, that it was probably one of the first songs that we recorded because we were so sure of it. And when we recorded it, the second we came out of the studio, I was like, Jesus Christ, that just sounds like it's a Ministry song, which is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
It's fucking awesome. I love Ministry, and I was like so torn because I was like, fuck yeah, this sounds like Ministry, bro. Uh, but then it was that thing of like, it's the fine line of like
Does it
being
sound too much like Ministry?
exactly right. It's like you have your influences, or else you're trying to sound like your influences. And so it was like uh, this kind of conflict of like, fuck, um, that song needs to be shelved or reworked or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I think like we pulled out all of the ministry parts to that were like surprise. It was like the chorus and like all the ins and outs of the chorus and stuff. And so it was like such a big part of the song. When you took that away, it was like there was like so little of a song left. And it was like, okay, well, we kind of rebuilt it and rewrote it and made it work again. And I think it's ultimately better for that. But yeah, so the process was like probably really laborious for Wayne and like
Yeah.
annoying, probably the most annoying person that's recorded
But
with him.
great that you like kept up with it and kept making these changes, working it and like getting it to a final product that can make the album. Do you find yourself needing to like balance influences like that a lot? Like try to consciously make sure that you're not taking too much inspiration from people?
Yeah, I think so. I think like, 'cause otherwise, what's the point? You know, you just like, you like everyone always, I find with like when you do interviews, it's like, people say like, oh, industrial, so like Nine Inch Nails or whatever, and you're like, yeah, yeah, like, uh, I love the comparison to even be mentioned in the same sentence as Nine Inch Nails is
Yeah.
awesome. But like it's that thing of like, man, I've no interest to replicate anything that sounds remotely like Nine Inch Nails or try be, Nine Inch Nails 2.0 because it's just like it's done, it's there, it exists, and it's awesome, obviously. But like yeah, it's if you're just doing that, like replicating someone else's sound, I just don't feel like there's anything interesting, artistically to kind of do with that. So yeah, it's always like they're kind of coming back to does it sound too much like this? And if it does, you probably know that you're going to rework it. There's quite a few there was quite a few, yeah, there was a few songs on the record that definitely got reworked. Like there was one song specifically that got like three incarnations of the same song,
That's
before.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm like, I'm fine with that.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And so this new album coming out, hopefully it brings a bunch of new listeners, new ears, and on top of the fans you've already built. But if there's someone listening to this interview that like hasn't heard of Tayne or hasn't gotten into your music yet, what's a song from the band that you would recommend as like a first listen for Tayne or like a way to get into to Tayne?
So I would say like for me personally, when we wrote the song Coherent, that was like the moment where I was just like, that's exactly what Tane is. Like that's the all-encompassing like 2.5 minutes Sonic Assault Tane song. Um, so like for me being a metalhead, definitely that song. But I think maybe to be true to the album and true to kind of what it is that we're trying to do, maybe Down is the song.
Hmm.
Um, because it's borrowing from all of those kind of industrial kind of sounds and trying to present it like a little bit more of a like structured kind of pop song. Um, and so yeah, Down is probably like the kind of good indication of borrowing from all of these genres and kind of like navigating that path of all of that chaos, structured
Yeah.
chaos.
Yeah, yeah. That's awesome. And to get into some other like specific songs that you guys have made. I mean, right now, I think it's your most streamed song on Spotify, Silence. Was there any hint of like, oh, this is the one, or were you expecting it to blow up in the way that it did, or was it like just another song for you guys?
It's funny, like so I have a tendency to always I noticed this and I'm now very accepting of it. Any song that I always think is a throwaway song tends to be the song that
Are the
is
ones that blow up.
yeah. And I've noticed Tom is like we're so on the opposite end with that stuff, and Silence, I remember he was like Silence is the song, man. And I was like, nah, it's definitely, I'm like, this song Coherent is this fucking song. Uh,
Yes.
and he's like, nah, nah. And so yeah, Silence was one of the fucking songs that was uh I mean I you know you're biased anyway. I thought it was a cool fucking song, but I didn't think that it was the song. Uh,
Yeah.
much like with Fear that's on the record, like I again, such a moment where I was just like, this is definitely not the song, and it seems to be like the most kind of well received song off of the record.
Yeah.
Um, and but yeah, so
For
and
now,
again,
until the full record comes
yeah,
out.
yeah, yeah. And so I like again, I was just like, what the fuck do I know? I like because I was like, that's not the fucking song, and everyone's like, that's the fucking song, and I'm like, all right, okay, cool. So I just like fucking whatever now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome.
I go if Tom says something's good or the song, I'm like, okay, it's probably what Tom says is the right one to go with.
Yeah. So was there any discussion like that for your latest song Scars from this album? Was there any thoughts or discussions of like this is the song it isn't, or was it just like somewhere in the track list, and what made you want to release it as a single?
I think it just has that really massive pop chorus on it, and
Hmm.
I think it's that song started as this big massive pop chorus, and this is the song that I referred to as the three renditions of it, and it started as that, and it was kind of one of those things that we were just like, oh, this is kind of like probably the most poppiest thing we'll do, but if we can find a way of like navigating kind of a way of like making that work and it not coming across like super cheesy or whatever, then all good. And ultimately, the end product of that song is I feel like that chorus is like such a setup because the song is like it's pretty kind of it's kind of trip hop, and then it's really aggressive, and then you get just this big swell and you're into this massive pop chorus for like 20 seconds, and then it just fucks right off and you've got assault again. And so I think when we uh got it, like when we recorded it, we kind of always knew that like that's probably the poppiest moment of the record. And we were just like kind of like we had made the music videos for Fear in this trend and Down, and we kind of knew that we had one more roll of the dice, and I think just unanimously everyone was like, yeah, it's Scars because that's the hook.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. And in terms of either the album or songs you have out previously, and this is definitely a bit of an abstract question, so feel free to not have an answer if there isn't one. But what something I'm so interested in with which I've seen from a few bigger artists that I'm fan of, is that when they write something, especially songs that kind of take a long time to create, or some of their older songs, do you have a song that had a meaning when you wrote it and have since like evolved into a new meaning for you, or you found new meaning in it?
uh yeah, there is one song that definitely comes to mind that we don't play anymore because
Oh
I'm
well.
like, we're not playing this song anymore. And just to not to scoot around it but give you an answer and not give you
Yeah,
an answer.
yeah.
It's the song called Corrupt on the EP that we put out with Silence. And yeah, I mean it's kind of like a one arcing song, but I think there's just a reference to cancer in it, and it just fucking it hits home too much now.
Mm.
That like I'm like I can't
It's
really
tough. Yeah.
like where we done it. I think I think I like it just like family members like dying and all of this shit, and it just yeah it's too close to home now. I feel like at the time I didn't
Yeah.
see the cancer word as like this fucking dreadful thing. I just it's a really uh effective word. Like there's so much hatred attached to that word, It's like it's the
Yeah.
enemy of life.
It's so there's something so in a bad way special about it that like it sounds evil almost that like
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
say and
yeah.
it has like a tone to it or a sound that like you even if you somehow didn't know what it was, it like sounds bad in
Yeah.
a
Yeah,
sense.
it's like instantly it's bad. It's
Yeah.
renowned as like the bad thing. And I think I say like please be my cancer's guide. And so like and I think what I meant with that was like the song is just like so so I think at the time it was like so fed up of just like feeling upset or feeling like shit that it was like it just like a word to or like a sentence to just be like oh just fucking be done with this shit.
Hmm.
And now kind of on the flip side of that kind of now that it exists and the life has gone on and shit has played out, I feel like that one like to say that live is like I'm just like oh, I can't do it. Like I feel
Yeah.
like because
No,
like
it hits different once you've experienced it firsthand or known
yeah,
someone
yeah.
around you who hasn't.
And I feel like with Tayne, at least with me, singing is never something that I felt like I was like a natural at, or like even like thematically, like lyrically and stuff with the band. Like it's not something that I've always felt very comfortable at. It's like a very vulnerable thing. It still is, I guess, but I feel like it always has to like come from a point of honesty or like self-serving or reflective, on my own shit, because that's where I feel comfortable to talk about. But uh so it kind of it takes a mindset to kind of, at least for me, to kind of to sing those songs and like be present
Yeah.
in the moment of playing them. And yeah, just like that sentence just fucks me up and I'm just like it's too dark for me. It's just way too dark for me.
Yeah. Fair, fair. And
Yeah.
I mean, not to shift the vibe completely, but
Hey,
trying to segue into this next question. Is there a song that the band has made that's like your favorite from it or that you really like?
um I think when we play live, there's a song called In This Trend, that's on the record that it's one of the music videos that we've put out. That song is always just seems to go off live. So I think for us we're always like this is the fun moment, or this is the most enjoyable moment of the set is like hitting this song. Um, yeah, it just always seems to kind of like go down, or even though it's like such a short, small song, whatever essence or formula of that song or pitch or whatever, people always just seem to groove that one really, really hard, and we always seem to get off on playing that song a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, it brings an energy to the show.
Yeah,
Yeah, like
for sure.
yeah, that's awesome. And then I mean I've had a great time, but a couple like hypothetical questions to start wrapping it
Sure.
up here. If Tayne as a band got this chance to make a song with any artist or band in the world, who would you want to collaborate with?
Fuck. Someone asked me this recently, and I think I said Lady Gaga because fuck, why not? And I think I'll stick to that. Yeah, I'll
Yeah,
go Lady
yeah.
Gaga.
It's
Like,
just
consider,
crazy enough that I could see her like doing a metal industrial noise pop
yeah, man.
song.
That song that came out like a few months ago, Disease, that she put out, like that's such a creepy, weird song. And I was like, fuck, if Gaga can put that out, you know,
A
we're
Tayne
good.
collaboration would be no
Yeah,
problem.
fucking get on this, Skags. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
That
awesome.
that's the top.
Yeah, and in a similar vein, do you have a bucket list of like venues or festivals that you want to play as a band?
Yeah, I guess like we um yeah, there's fucking loads, dude. Like
Yeah.
we're really stoked this year. Like one, like just to kind of like tie into what's already announced. We're playing this festival here in the UK called Arctangent, this summer, and like for me, it's always been like just like a big one for. I guess like alt metal, alt music, and kind of left it like yeah, left it a field like not really commercial and very weird, but like big hitters, you know, always play it like you know lots of like post metal bands and stuff like that, and post rock, whatever, just anything weird tends to play that. And so we're playing that this year, and for me that was like a massive like tick the box kind of moment. And the promoters are just super awesome. So yeah, really looking forward to that one. I mean, there's loads in like Europe. Like I usually hit up this festival in Porto called Amplifest. It's really small, but it's always got an amazing lineup. Like I would love to play this festival. In I mean America, there's too many to name. Like Riot Fest, come on, like that's
Yeah.
always killer, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm sure there's loads. And I've had a couple of bands on who like I mean, sure enough, I'm talking to them at one point and they're like, "Yeah, I'd love to play this festival, but that's like so huge that's down the road." And then within like 8 months, a year, they're announcing that they're playing at that festival, and I'm like, yeah, good for them. Like, go. So here's to all these shows, hopefully coming up for you, all the Riot Fests and other festivals that you want to play
Yeah.
as a band. Thank
Uh,
you so much for coming on. I learned so much. I'm so happy with everything that we got to talk about. And I mean, if there's anything else you want to shout out or promote to the people out there, the band, any shows, anything like that, feel free to do it now.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. We've got this record called Love that's coming out on the 31st of January. It's about conflict, but we call it Love. And yeah, I think it's like just a really raw, honest kind of piece of, you know, music that was kind of yeah, a lot of energy and a lot of love, actual love was put into and so yeah, I hope there's something in it that resonates with you. Even not if there's something that's cool in there that you just want to headbang to. Thank you so much for checking it out.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I'll leave a link to this new album and some other stuff down below. Thank you so much
Wicked.
for coming on. And actually, I'll add the new album once it comes out. I think this will come out before the new album.
Wicked.
But as soon January 31st, Love comes out. I'll add that to the description. But Spotify for Tayne, Instagram for Tayne, you can find that all down below. Stay tuned for them. Listen to Love, everything like that. Thank you so much, Matt, for coming on.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thanks for taking the time.